As we begin to address the business of Wakulla County, we ask that those infirmed have a speedy recovery. Our thoughts and prayers especially go out to our county administrator, who is ill. We pray that he gathers strength and returns to restored health. We pray that the disastrous oil leak has stopped and our Gulf returns to health. And we pray that this board has the strength and courage to continue to address the important issues that come before it. Amen. The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, Monday, July 19th, 2010, approximately 4 p.m. in the afternoon. The Board will now go into a closed session pursuant to Section 286.011, parentheses 8, Florida statutes. The subject matter of the executive session is to discuss litigation strategy and expenditures relating to the pending litigation Ronald Crum versus Wakulla County and potential settlement matters as to that matter. This is the meeting of the regularly scheduled meeting of Board of County Commissioners that had actually opened at 4 p.m. this afternoon. It went into a private session, attorney-client meeting. It was recessed approximately 13 minutes before the hour, and we're now back out of recess, continuing with the regularly scheduled Board of County Commission meeting. We had already had our prayer and our pledge, but I want to make a statement that in case people do not know, we understand that Mr. Pingree is ill, our county administrator, and our thoughts and prayers go to him and his family as we wish him a speedy recovery. Our first order of business after the recess will be to approve the agenda. Are there any additions, modifications to the agenda? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have 2 announcements to add under awards and presentations and discussion items.
I have one item to add under presentations.
Nancy's got an item.
Commissioner Smith?
Lindsay's got an item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, under County Administrator's time, we would like to add a discussion of the County Administration as well as the Building Division's phone system.
Phone system to be added under County Administrator items.
I have one discussion item to add. If we don't, we may get to it before, but if not, I'd like to reserve the right to talk about it then.
Sure.
And I'd like to go ahead and pull item 14 and item 30 from the consent agenda.
14
And 30.
and 30. We'll address the consent agenda again, but are there any other items that commissioners at this point are considering to remove from the consent agenda. I think I have a couple. Bocc, no good, okay.
Motion to, I'm sorry.
I'd like to pull item 17 from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Motion to approve the agenda with the noted changes.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart to approve the agenda with noted changes. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Green. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. First order of business on the agenda as approved deals with the public hearings. I just should mention that there was some request to have an item moved up in the agenda, and it was actually Commissioner Stewart's, and I felt that it would be too confusing for citizens that were already thinking of coming later, so I did not go ahead and do that. Okay, so into public hearings at this point in time.
Commissioners, first item this evening is a public hearing. It's a request for board approval of acquisition of property necessary for easements for the Wakulla Garden sewer and wastewater treatment upgrade projects. This is a request to the board to acquire 9 lots within the Wakulla Garden subdivision to further our sewering plans for Wakulla Gardens project. I know Dale Dransfield is here this evening, right there. Do you have a presentation, or you want to just answer questions?
Just answer questions.
Are there any citizens to speak on this issue? If there are none, Commissioner Otts?
Can I have a question?
Sure.
I move that we conduct the public hearing and approve the acquisition of the parcels of land in Wakulla Gardens. Second.
Commissioner Stewart makes a motion, second by Commissioner Bocc. Yes.
Okay, first I'm going to thank you for reviewing the lots needed for the sewer system in conjunction with stormwater needs.
Yes, Preble Rish took a look at each one of them, and very helpful.
I'm so glad you're doing that. Thank you for the list also. I noted that 3 lots are not in the stormwater basin. And in Unit 5, I just would like to be educated about, like, on the map, there are 4, this is between Chickhead and E.J. Stringer. Fairly close to Lower Bridge Road. And I know at the very end of that street is one of our worst flooding sites. And what I wanted to understand is why this couldn't be further down
Are you asking about why the sewer couldn't be further down?
Excuse me, let's have, please at the mic.
Okay.
For the record. I mean, no, you can be up there, but for the record, we need you recorded.
Sure. Jeff Britton with Preble Rish. Is the question, why can't the sewer be located further down at the lower spots, or are you asking about the stormwater component of it, or both?
mainly why we have to put this, why we need this easement up where there isn't a stormwater problem, and why can't we have it further down where it could do double duty, help with stormwater as well as sewer? I'm just asking.
Well, and I'll let you respond to that. With the overall plan of the sewer system, it's a lot of parts, pieces, and that land doesn't all flow, every street doesn't flow the same way, and so when you try to connect over to another street, if you get down too far low, you're not able to connect over there and connect the streets together. The idea of these easements is to alleviate the need for an additional lift station, which is very expensive, about $100,000. And where we're able to pick up these lots in the $8,000 to $10,000 range, it makes a lot more. Now, the stormwater, you can get great value out of land halfway down. Directing stormwater to that's that much stormwater that won't make it to the bottom of the hill. Not all your stormwater ponds need to be right in the very bottom, if you understand what I'm saying, because as that thing gets built out and more impervious area, sidewalks, eventually paving, rooftops, you're going to need more stormwater capacity out there than just, the very bottom lots in each. So. And I think that's what, is that kind of the way you...
That's the gist of it. The other thing is that there's just not enough vacant lots at the bottom of the hill, so to speak. So we have to capture it and collect it, kind of step it on down. So when he sent over the locations of all these lots, we looked at it and said, yes, we could find a way to utilize it for stormwater management as well, depending on how much of the lot is still usable after infrastructure is put in there. So.
All right, thank you.
And where it's easements to correct to, all of the infrastructure is underground. It's a pipe buried underground, so virtually all of the surface area is available for stormwater retention. Now, where it's dedicated for a lift station, there will be a corner of it that is fenced off and unavailable, but a very small part of it for that, 25 by 25.
Good, thank you. Any further board discussion? Hearing none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Public hearing, the first of two public hearings on the proposed revised wetlands protection ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, we're requesting the board to conduct the first of the two public hearings on the proposed revised wetlands protection ordinance. We had a workshop on this item back on May 6th, which was ratified on May 17th. In addition to ratifying the draft ordinance and approving certain modifications, this board referred the proposed ordinance to planning for its consideration at a duly noticed public hearing. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on June 14th. To determine whether the ordinance was consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, which is the scope of their review. 3 members voted recommending approval of the wetlands ordinance, and 3 members voted recommending not to approve it. So nothing really happened. Nonetheless, it moves forward to this board for your final consideration. Due to the great public concern regarding this ordinance, we are recommending that you have one public hearing today on it to get citizen input, but not vote until you have a second public hearing at your second meeting in August. With that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Bethany Burgess with my office, who's going to run through the minor changes that have been made to this ordinance since the last time you saw it.
Okay, since the last time you saw the ordinance, there were a couple of scrivener's errors that we felt needed to be corrected, and then there was one additional change we made for purposes of clarification. And the change for clarification, if you look at page 6 of the draft that is in your agenda item in the definitions, there's a definition of hydrologically connected. And this definition was added due to some concerns that had been raised by members of the community about what that term meant with regards to one of the exemptions later on in the ordinance. And after discussions with a few of the members from the Wetlands Committee and finding out what the Army Corps of Engineers does and the Northwest Florida Water Management District does regarding the term hydrologically connected, we're recommending that this definition be added to reflect that something is hydrologically connected to wetlands or surface waters if it is connected either on an ongoing basis, meaning continuously connected, or if it is connected as a result of a 2-year 24-hour storm event or 2-year 24-hour or less storm event. So that means if it rains for 24 hours or less and it's connected after one of these storm events. The other modifications that were made or clarifications that were made were one on page 30 in the section for design standards. And that's actually paragraph I-4 on page 30, where it has the subparagraph 4. The last line of that paragraph was modified to reflect that that the county or the state or a municipality or the water management district may alter or construct a boat ramp or widen an existing boat ramp so long as it does not ultimately exceed 50 feet in width. And of course, the county or any of these agencies could also get a variance from these design standards, just as a reminder. But there was just some unclarity or confusion in reading that sentence as to whether it actually said this, and this is what it was intended to say. The only other minor change was on page 33, on the next to last line of paragraph D. The word banking was added because that paragraph is referring to mitigation banking. And that term, it was pointed out to us from one of the Wetlands Committee members, had been left out. So those are the 3 changes. We feel that those changes are non-substantive and are simply for clarification and correcting scrivener's errors. But if you have any questions about those or anything else in the ordinance, we're happy to address those questions.
Thank you very much. Citizens, please.
Have 2 public hearings.
Okay, Ms. Chuck Hess. Is she here? Chuck Hess?
May just step down.
Okay. Well,
Okay, sir.
Yes, I missed the announcement you're going to the wetlands ordinance. I find it really interesting that we're even considering, well, basically, you need to pass the wetlands ordinance. There's a lot of wetlands out there that we think are protected that aren't protected, and this ordinance will give us the ability to protect these wetlands. We want to have development, we want to have growth, but we want to make sure we preserve our environment, and this is a balance between the 2 of them. If you want to, there's a lot of comment about the small wetlands and how they're just mud holes, I've heard that said. And there's a whole community that just depends on those ephemeral wetlands. And unless we protect them and keep them, we'll start losing all the herps, the species that depend on them, and that's the whole food source that is produced by the wetland for the upland animals. You're all familiar with the wetlands production that occurs in the estuaries, and you talk about that, and we were all concerned about what the oil spill would have on the fishery industry. Well, our birds and all our species on the uplands also depend on these wetlands for the food sources that are coming out of them up into the uplands, and it's real important that we protect them, and this seems like a good way to do it. Thank you.
Thanks. Bob Danzy.
Hi, my name's Bob Danzy. I live at 1012 Wakulla Road. I guess I'm going to have to come down on the side of that we probably don't need this ordinance. I think I'd appreciate it if you all voted no on it. The North Florida Water Management District is taking over, is going to do what this ordinance does, and then you have the ability for the state to deal with these issues rather than the county. If the county's not dealing with them, then they're not getting lawsuits, and they're spending more of our money on lawsuits for this stuff. So I just think it'd be better to leave that in the state's hands, and I'll just leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chad Hansen.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chad Hansen, 14 Egert Street, North Crawfordville. I don't think we spend enough time talking about the importance of wetlands. I know we've heard it over and over again, but they provide very important functions, both ecologically and economically, and to the property. For one thing, they filter pollution that's going into the groundwater. They contribute to nutrients, they add nutrients that's needed for the ecological systems. They're very productive areas ecologically for fisheries in particular. They act as a sponge. They absorb floodwaters. So when you have a lot of rain, the rain has somewhere to go. And in that process, it also filters it out. And they also provide recreation areas. And so when we talk about wetlands, we're talking about a whole series of important issues. This wetlands ordinance itself was sparked by you all forming a committee almost a year ago, and with specific direction to clear up the ordinance or create a new one. And so here we are. We have a proposed ordinance before you that provides the clarity you need, the transparency you need, and it clears up the process. It gives the public and landowners the process laid out for them, what is expected of them, and how one goes about, if they have dealing with wetlands that may be on the property or may not be on the property. So I think it strikes that balance of providing property rights protection and environment protection. And when we talk about property rights, we have to also be clear that tearing up wetlands on somebody's property doesn't just affect that person's property because it's wetlands. It's probably connected to the groundwater or to some other environmental aspect, like a river or such. That affects other people downstream or within that zone. And when you're along the refuge, it affects the refuge, which is public property. And so wetlands are not just private property. They're actually connected to the public resource, which is the groundwater, the aquifer, and the public lands. So I think it's important to have this ordinance to provide that level of protection that is not protected by the Northwest Florida Water Management District or the DEP or the Corps of Engineers. And these are the local non-connected wetlands that are most important that this is protecting. So I hope you would look at this ordinance with favor and vote unanimously in favor of it in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Clint Boutwell.
Thank you. My name is Clint Boutwell, 295 Wakulla Road. I've read this ordinance and I would endorse it. I think it's a tremendous improvement over the prior ordinance. My personal experience with the prior ordinance was not a very good one. It's a matter of record. Developer bought a motion put before the Planning and Zoning Commission using a clause in the ordinance which was essentially intended for driveways and that sort of thing. The developer was able to get it through, approved as essentially a street going through wetlands and basically skirting his obligation to build the supporting infrastructure for the development that he was proposing, instead proposing to perhaps dump the water on my neighbors and myself. As I read this ordinance, that would be prevented. Those types of projects would have to come before the elected officials, and that's where they should be decided. I would urge each and every one of you to support this ordinance in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fred Bradford.
It's good to be in another county commission meeting concerning our wetlands ordinance, our proposed wetlands ordinance. But I have some serious thoughts that being a marine contractor in Wakulla County and being in the environment for the last 30 years, day after day after day, I see some parts of the wetlands ordinance that need addressing. And it's all, most of it is marine construction, but especially in section 7 where it says allowable uses. And it says the following uses shall be permitted wetlands and other surface waters and buffers, provided they do not have an adverse impact on wetland or other surface water. It says construction, repair, replacement, or maintenance of docks, piers, boardwalks, observation decks, elevated walkways, used for water-dependent activities, provided such structures meet the design standards contained in Section 10. Well, if you go to Section 10, to the design standards, you'll see the biggest flaw that the wetland ordinance has. And it says developers of lots, it says that developers of lots containing wetlands or other surface waters or buffers platted subsequent to the effective date of this ordinance shall demonstrate that such lots possess a minimum of 2,800 square feet of buildable area. Buildable area shall be that area outside of all required building setbacks, buffers, wetlands, and other surface waters. And what it's saying, commissioners, is that you taking the width of your lot times 75 feet, and if you have 2,800 square feet of buildable area, you can do this. But we're working in Oyster Bay, and on one road in Oyster Bay on Shoreline Drive, the wetland setback overlaps each other completely, making all those lots just in the road. There's about 20 vacant lots unbuildable. At about $300,000 a lot, there's roughly $6 million worth of real estate on one road that will be rendered useless in this wetlands ordinance. And not only that, but if you go to Masher Sands and all those canal lots down there that are vacant down there, every one of them with the road setbacks, the wetland setbacks, leaves these vacant lots literally useless. So I would encourage the county commission to reject this wetland ordinance. And it's ill-advised as far as the properties that we now have in Shell Point and Oyster Bay and Panacea and other areas of water that do not meet the requirable square footage setbacks. And I would just like you to take into consideration the property owners. Thank you.
And then, could we have some comment,
Sure.
clarification? I think there might be a misinterpretation there.
Yeah, the gentleman was referring to a section that imposes the 2,800 square feet of buildable area. That is for lots that are platted subsequent to the effective date. Anything that's already been platted, such as the lots that were mentioned, would not be subject to that.
Right. So that being understood, that was what was said there was not accurate, and if you go go back, and I urge you to go back over that and look at it. These are for lots that are going to be platted after the wetlands ordinance, if it is to be approved, is approved. It does not go retroactive. Okay. Teresa Kramer.
My name is Teresa Kramer, 50 Melody Lane here in Crawfordville. And I agree with some of the previous speakers, and we hear it constantly now that all through the Gulf Coast, our economy and our environment is inextricably linked, especially here in Wakulla County, where we rely so much on the wonders and beauty of our environment to attract tourists, the ecotourism that we have here in the county, the fishing, the oystering, the bird watching, and so many other things that we all love and enjoy and depend on our livelihood for those. There have been some comments throughout this process. We've had a number of workshops, 2 workshops, several hearings. The committee has worked diligently. We've tried to clarify with as many people as we could how we worked very hard to balance the private property rights with protection of the environment. There have been some misunderstandings that have continued, and I'd like to see if I can clarify some of those as it pertains to the costs and impact on both the county and the citizenry. I've got a handout that I'd like to provide to the commission that summarizes just generally. It's not a totally comprehensive listing, because there are so many variables with the wetlands ordinances and what we've done. But what I want to point out is that under the current comprehensive plan, if it's implemented without any ordinance, as is currently happening now, or under the previous existing ordinance, any water associated use, water-dependent use, such as docks, boardwalks, fishing piers, things of that sort, everything like that would be built under those, the property owners would have to come before either the Planning and Zoning Commission and sometimes before the Board of County Commissioners to get approval for those. Under the new ordinance, if they're building the basic dock, fishing pier, boardwalk, etc., they would not have to come before you. And that's an onerous process, especially for the property owner who's not familiar with the workings of the county. In addition, to go through those processes, they would have had to pay for a conditional use permit $560 plus cost of representation if they hired someone to represent them. If they had to come before the commission in addition and get a variance, they would have had to pay $432 plus cost of representation. So these are things that were taken out. You can see from this table that in fact, overall the cost to the county and to the citizens has been decreased would be decreased by implementing this ordinance instead of as we currently sit, which is the comprehensive plan, or with the old ordinance in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Al Schakowsky.
Al Schakowsky, 85 Walden Road. I'd just like to say I'm in favor of the ordinance as the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's no vote on this item. We are moving on to the third of our public hearings. And we have conducted it. Do we need to actually take a vote on? Oh, I thought it actually occurred.
I couldn't hear what Evelyn was
So
saying.
we're asking you that there needs to be a vote on, we had actually we never voted on that. We just had a motion and a second. Is that correct? I got it now. Okay, so we have to go retroactive and approve
To have the
that motion. So all those in favor of having what we just had signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Evelyn. Okay, so we're up to public hearing number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is we're requesting that the board conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 0816, which is your Wakulla County purchasing policy. This proposed ordinance will provide process and requirements for implementing a local preference criteria. Up until this point, if there was going to be a local preference included in your procurements, including your bids and your RFPs, and even your informal quotes, staff needed to come back to the board to get approval to do that, and this would make it automatic. And we are recommending that you conduct the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Move to conduct the public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 0816, including the Wakulla County purchasing policy.
Second for discussion.
Motion by Commissioner Bocc and a second by Commissioner Arts on the third of the public hearings concerning itself with 08-16 county purchasing policy. Citizens to speak on this issue. First, we have the one, Ms. Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I just wondered, is there a purchasing policy in this county? Because a couple of weeks ago I pulled some records of the county and I saw where, and it's my understanding, that there have been expenditures of computers for commissioners that were unsolicited, and they are almost at $2,000 a pop, that commissioners got BlackBerries that they didn't ask for. They just appeared like Christmas time on their desk. And these, as unsolicited purchases, I would think would raise eyebrows. $10,000 was spent on a space study to figure out if there's room in the county administration building to put offices. And then big old conference rooms were formed, and they sit there empty with no offices in them. So it would seem that that $10,000 needed to be debated a little bit more. So here I'm asking you, that when you go through this purchasing property, and I'd like to note that some of these purchases were sort of justified as being sole source purchases, and the definition of that is pretty clear, and it would be questionable as if computers and BlackBerries reach that criteria. But when you go through purchasing here, what is the review that you have for the purchases that are made? There are families, again, in this county who struggle every single day to figure out how they're going to pay the rent, pay the mortgage, buy some food, and now send the kids back to school. And this is like manic singing spree. This county is spending like a pig in slop, and it would be really nice if someone would get a grip on it.
Thank you. Board discussion? Yes, Commissioner Watts.
Yes, I was wondering if the board might entertain a revision to this. And I think maybe it's okay for me to say to Ms. Peck that Ms. Peck, one of our later items actually puts limits on purchases. But my mic is on, is it not, Bob? Okay.
I think we're going to have to do this.
Okay, I'm sorry, it was turned on, but it wasn't picking up. Okay, the comment I made related to Ms. Peck's comment was that there are, another agenda item actually deals with restricting purchasing amounts, but I wanted to see if the board would entertain amending this, revising it, the way we've agreed that we want to have a local preference to help increase employment for Wakulla businesses and residents. And the way it's structured now is that there's a 5% preference for a business actually based in Wakulla, either defined by its location or tax receipt, its home or principal office, or current business tax receipt issued by Wakulla County. And then there's a 3% that's more of a regional neighboring counties. But that treats, if you look at that 3%, that includes if there's a distribution point, or if they're the owner or employees live in Wakulla County or neighboring counties. And I make a distinction between someone living in Wakulla County versus Liberty or Leon or Franklin. So my suggestion would be to add a middle tier of 4% for Wakulla County, where there's a fixed office or distribution point in Wakulla County, even if it's not the main office, or where there's one or two part-time employees whose primary residence is Wakulla County. So we would have a 5% if they're clearly based, the main office. We'd have 4% if they qualify under some of those other things, and then it would go down to 3% for the Leon, Franklin, Liberty counties. So what I would like to do, if Commissioner Bocc is willing, would be to finish conducting this public hearing, but then make these revisions to the proposed ordinance and continue it to the August 2nd meeting at 5 p.m. That would reduce the advertising cost.
I'm okay with that.
So is the proposal to come back with a new ordinance?
It would be amended as I've described.
And my question, you've suggested that if they have one or two employees living in Wakulla County, that they would get the 4%. I think I would prefer if you gave a percentage of employees that they work for. So if I have a firm with 1,000 people and one person lives in Wakulla, that's not a local company. If I have a firm with 5 people and 2 people live in Wakulla, then that's a significant percentage, maybe 25%, 20%.
Okay, but then are you suggesting that we revise it also for if they have 1 or 2 employees in Franklin or Leon? Because it would seem like you would need it to do it.
Under the current way it's structured, if you take out the principal business, which is the 5%, I believe, if I understand what Commissioner Arts wants to do, is take, if you look at page 2 of the proposed ordinance, is just add you have B1, which is the principal business, and you have B2, which is sort of a two-pronged. You have to have a fixed office or a distribution point in one of these counties, and then you also have to have some sort of residence here, either through your employees or through the business owner. And I believe you just want to keep the same criteria, but remove Wakulla County from that, set it out on its own, and in Wakulla County, fixed distribution point and employees would get 4%, and then the other counties in the region would get 3%, is how I'm understanding it.
Okay, sorry.
And one other item I wanted to, just if we're going to bring this back for clarification, and even if we're not, there's a couple minor changes that I'd recommend, and that is, in various places throughout here, it says home or principal office, and I think that got a little bit confusing. We're not talking about a person's home, we're talking about the office's home. So in order to make that clear, I think we could just strike home and use principal office. That's what the Department of State uses. So if you would make that direction as well, I'd appreciate it.
I think that's a good suggestion, and I would like to include that in the proposed revisions.
Okay.
So if you want to do this, the appropriate action would be to direct me to make those changes and then move to continue the hearing.
Yeah. So I take that as a friendly amendment to my motion.
Any further concern? Just friendly amendment, and that was the amendment. Further discussion? I have some things. I'm concerned that maybe I don't get it quick enough, but for me, there's incentives for having a business whose principal office is here in Wakulla County, and part of it, the assumption is, of course, they're more apt to have the local tradespeople working. There's also a revenue source. I mean, trying to get off of the backs of the taxpayers the burden they have, and one of the ways to get that is with business. And I think that I'm afraid of diluting this sort of stepping out and not really encouraging someone to have their principal office here, where their taxes will be paid from, which will be a revenue-generating source for our county. With that office being here, I think principal office is an important thing. So I'm not sure about intended consequences or unintended consequences, and I'd sort of like to have more time to think about that proposal, because I'm not totally have my arms around it. You do. You've been thinking about it, but I don't. And then to have attorneys to draft a new ordinance only to have it debated at the next meeting, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So maybe you could clarify it more for me, and maybe I can...
Well, again, some of this came to my attention because there are people who view themselves as Wakulla County businesses because this is where they live, even though Leon County was technically where their main office is, and they didn't get the benefit. You know, so that's why I've been looking at this.
These are established places. I think I understand that, and I think and I don't know if there's a way of doing it. Is there a way of doing it just like we have in the wetlands ordinance of whatever was platted before? We can address that as one entity, and whatever is platted or new businesses coming in. So the business that exists now, who has some kind of branch office here, but their principal office is somewhere else, they get that 4%. But anyone in the future, in other words, we grandfather them in, but anyone in the future either have to be here or not be here.
I appreciate what you're saying about the incentive that it might offer for someone to locate here or not, but the proposal that I was making is really just making a distinction of that 3% category, and it's differentiating our county it's differentiating Wakulla County from Leon, Franklin, and Liberty. That was all that's the only change that I'm really making.
Okay, excuse me.
It's my understanding it's incentivizing them to open up a branch office in Tallahassee, in Wakulla County, sorry. So like Capital City Bank, their principal office is in Leon County, but they have a branch office here.
Gotcha.
They would get an extra incentive for doing that over a bank who have an office in Franklin County but not Wakulla.
Come on board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any citizens to speak on this issue? I do have one other thing that I wanted to address on this purchasing thing. I do have some slides, I think, to put up here. Yeah, and, you know, I think that the entire board is in favor of local businesses having the opportunity to bid on local purchases, and local business should have an advantage when they do so. I think everyone is in agreement to that. But what is troubling when we're worrying about local preference is that if we're not following up purchasing policy, then that may be lip service. So if we have policies, we should be following them. And I've gone over, and I'm going to flip through rapidly some purchases that here's one. According to our purchasing policy, it was for, it required 2 verbal quotes for wiring. It was over $1,000. Not next. And Again, similar type things, Windows-based computers require 2 verbal quotes, no documentation. Windows-based computer, again, requiring, you get the idea. Continue. 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 These are all different quotes, Windows-based computers. Stop there for a second. Here's one, required 3 written quotes. None. Next. Here's one, 3 written quotes for Windows-based computer. None. Again, 3 written quotes. None. Over $4,000. Similar, over $6,000. No quotes. Here's one for $6,000. No written quotes. Here's one for $10,000. Sealed bids. None. $12,000. 3 sealed bids. None. So that total is $49,000, almost $50,000. Next, over the last 9 months. And the whole purpose, or one of the missions at least, of the purchasing policy is to maximize the purchasing value of public funds. And the point being is, if we have a policy, we have to start following it, and if we don't follow it, it doesn't mean much. So, but getting back to local preference. And any further board discussion? And if you have any questions on any of that data that I spelled out, I'd be happy to provide you with specifics. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. We're up to public hearing number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, we're requesting the board to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance which would authorize the waiver of the mandatory connection requirement for on your wastewater system, and would extend the sewer connection incentive program, the discounts we discussed at the last board meeting. And additionally, we have a resolution that we are requesting that you approve that would ratify the action taken at the June 21 meeting that would waive the mandatory connection requirements for those properties with available wastewater services. What your ordinance does that's before you is basically incorporates the provision of Florida statutes that allows this board to waive these requirements with consent of the Department of Health, and then it extends the sewer connection discounts. I want to point out one change that needs to be made in the ordinance in section 3. 2A and B, the year should be 2011, not 2010 on both of those. It extends the 75% discount till January 1, 2011, extends the 50% discount then till April 1, 2011, and the 75%, sorry, I'm saying this incorrectly. They pay 25% of the applicable connection fees between now and January 1, 2011, 50% by April 1, 2011, and 75% by July 1, 2011. So those first 2 dates need to just be reflected to be 2011, not 2010. What the resolution does is actually ratifies the action you all took to waive those connections, with a couple noted changes. The Department of Health was contacted after your last meeting to obtain their consent to waive the residential and commercial business sewer hookups, which is required in accordance with section 381.00655 of Florida statutes. The Department of Health was very good. They processed this very quickly for us. However, they gave a limited consent. They are of the opinion that there are health concerns associated with providing waivers for properties located on Live Oak Island, Mashes Sands, and Shell Point. Therefore, in accordance with the Department of Health's limited consent, the properties that are on Mashes Sands that have available sewer service to them are not included in the waiver, meaning that they would still be required to connect to the county central sewer service. In this batch, we did not have any properties on Live Oak Island or Shell Point, just Mashes Sands. So I wanted to point that out to you all because that does differ from the discussion that you had at your June 21st meeting. And with that, we're recommending that you hold the public hearing and adopt the ordinance and adopt the proposed resolution.
Move to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance authorizing waiver of the mandatory connection requirement and extending the sewer connection incentive program, and adopt the proposed resolution ratifying board action taken at June 21st, 2010 board meeting waiving mandatory connection requirement for specified properties.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Brock, second by Commissioner Stewart. There are no citizens to speak on this issue. Is there any further board discussion? Call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. I just want to make a couple of announcements at this point. One is that there are a couple of items under my agenda items. That one I'm going to be continuing, which is the third item under my last of three. Let me just go there and specifically spell it out, because I don't want someone waiting for the whole meeting only to find out that I'm not going to be doing that. And that is under 28, letter C. That will be continued to the next meeting. And only one of Part B will be addressed this evening, and that's the issue dealing with the finance question. I'd like to see from a show of hands in the room how many people here are here for item 29. Okay, I had several requests during the day to have that moved up, but I did not move that on the agenda because I was told that there were people that possibly would not get that word of moving it up, and that it's under where it sits in the meeting. If you have other pressing issues to do and want to speak to that issue, I would advise you to speak to that issue under citizens to be heard, or wait till when that item comes up, which is 29, near the end of the meeting. We are now going into awards and presentations. Scott Nelson, Emergency Management, is here to give us a brief overview.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. As we start, this was the first meeting that we provided the briefing. As you can see, the slick was 85 miles off of, at that time, they were measuring to Port St. Joe. Next. And this was a few weeks ago, June 21st. It was much closer. We fortunately benefited from next Tropical Storm Alex and the tropical wave that followed it. So basically all of the slick that was there was pushed on to West Florida and then on to Louisiana. Unfortunately for them, but at least for us, we basically have started over. We're now, the measuring point is to Panama City. We're 130 miles. So we've gotten pretty close to where we started. As you can see, the heavier stuff is a dark blue. That is off to the west of the well site. They capped the well Friday afternoon. The well is still capped. They are continuing to study it. Today, Flat Island gave them permission to study another 24 hours. There is what appears to be a minor leak from the cap. And there are two other leaks, one several miles away and one somewhat closer, that they believe were probably there naturally before this event started. But they're looking at those. What they're watching is to make sure that the pressure is stabilized, or at least is not decreasing. So far, they're gaining 1 to 2 pounds of pressure an hour. So it is still increasing. It does look promising, but they are still somewhat concerned about the cap and the integrity. So they're trying to weigh what keeping this cap on and keeping the pressure on is going to do to the integrity of the well structure beneath it. So anyway, right now everything looks good, but they are proceeding very cautiously. Next. This is just a summary of the actions, basically the major actions from our last meeting. On the 23rd of June, we attended a roundtable discussion in Walton County to discuss overall operations and some of the issues we were having as local and state agencies. with the current operation. They've provided many changes since then, including bringing a branch to the state, an operational branch, and then broke that into divisions throughout the region. On the 25th, we attended a meeting regarding our current protective actions and moving forward. On the 26th, they actually began their wet storage of boom. Boom is out in the county. Right now there are discussions about the need to possibly remove that or come up with a plan to remove that, and we're going to go through that over the next week or so. On the 2nd, there was a new operations vessel opportunity. That program started in the county. There are currently 10 boats working, and they've developed a process to cycle boats in and out, so those that qualify can possibly get an opportunity. That's been a very difficult program for people to get in and for people to work with. Improvements have come, but it's still a tough process. On the 28th, we had a meeting locally on the anchoring of boom and our concerns with what anchors might do as the boom is out there deployed but unneeded. And that's driving some of the discussions we'll get into further in a week. On the 6th, we had a meeting with Senator Nelson at the state, and also on the 6th, Congressman Boyd held a meeting in St. Mark's that many locals attended. On the 9th, we met with the U.S. Coast Guard and our Division 4 folks, again regarding boom deployment and the Vessel Opportunities Program. That was kind of the process where we laid out the issues and some of the fixes that needed to happen. On the 14th, we had the opportunity to do an air recon of the state as well as our local waters, and no oil was found, which was the expectation. But we did see Franklin and Wakulla have a pretty aggressive plan, a boom plan, compared to the counties to our west. And on the 16th, we had a meeting with our Division 1 and Division 4 branches. I went to Escambia County to see their operation and their branch 4. We fall into branch 4, and we went to look at their operation as well. Next. And this is just a summary of the numbers. The claims office, they are still taking claims at 3010 Carville Highway, 1-800-440-0858. And then the BP outreach for those with issues with the BP process is at 2887 Carville Highway, and the phone number there is 251-648-9398.
Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, there's a Coast Guard commander here. He can come in. Do you need to talk to this? Okay.
This is Ron Cottadell, Lieutenant Commander and soon-to-be Commander, and certainly he's been with us for the last several weeks and has got a couple more weeks to go, but that was part of the changes they recently did in standing up these branches, and he's been a big help.
Actually get feet on the ground.
If I can just say something about Scott, he has done a remarkable job through this. Every time I've called him to citizens' complaints about the process, or and I'm not blowing his horn, but he has done a wonderful job, and I appreciate it. And it has been said from all the people I've talked to in the chain of command above him that he's probably the best that they've been associated with. So that says a lot for our county.
So I think we deserve to blow his horn.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I'm paid to do. But for the citizens, this has been a tough process, especially those that are trying to get in some of these programs. So we're fortunate right now we don't have oil, and it's certainly still a good ways away. And as long as they keep it contained, I think they can deal with the offensive approach. But we'll continue to watch it. And obviously, we're in hurricane season, and everybody needs to be prepared, get a plan.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the introduction of the probation officers by John Walkup. Is he here this evening? Okay.
Yes, sir. We just want to thank you, Mr.
Mr. Kessler and all the commission members for taking this opportunity to recognize some of our corrections staff here in Wakulla County. And just real quickly, if I could get them to stand up, I've got 6 officers, a supervisor, and 2 clerical staff here that work right down the street here in our Crawfordville office, and have Jamie Wakefield in the red there, one of my officers, my supervisor, LaWanna Gervin, and one of my sex offender specialists, Chris Christensen. And I have several other officers that are working tonight, couldn't be here. But what they do is sort of a thankless job. They're out there day and night, around the clock, supervising the adult felony offenders in this community. They work closely with the sheriff's office, helping keep our community safe. And I appreciate y'all taking the time to give them a little recognition.
And just let me come down for a second. This is unsigned at the present time, but it is that proclamation that the board will be addressing once it is approved, and I'll be signing it and putting it in your hands.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Do you want a picture?
You want a picture? Okay, sorry. One more.
Okay, yes, the next item is announcement of some upcoming public input meetings that have been a long time in coming. So I'm going to turn this over to Melissa Corbett, who's our planner too over in the Planning and Zoning Division.
Yes, the Planning Department is extremely excited to announce that we're going to be holding the first in a series of public meetings regarding the Crawfordville Town Plan, or this was referred to as the Crawfordville Overlay in some of the EAR amendment process. And this meeting will be held at the Community Center on July 27th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. And for anyone who's not familiar with the new Community Center, it's the former site of the New Life Church, and it's located at the intersection of Trice Lane and Shadeville Highway. And while everyone is invited to attend this meeting, we want to seek everyone's input. We especially would like for the Crawfordville business owners to come out and share their ideas on what improvements they would like to see made to the Crawfordville area. And another meeting will be held in late August, and this will be a 2-day workshop where we hope to draw not just businesses, but all the citizens out to share their ideas. And that meeting is going to be August 26th and 28th, but I'll probably come back before you at the next meeting to let you know the location. That's up in the air at the moment. But if you have any questions, let us know, and we hope to see everybody there.
Thank you. I'll make one announcement. This coming Friday night at the Community Center at 7 p.m., I believe, Dr. Ricky Ott, who is a biologist, a marine biologist, toxicologist, will be speaking on the Gulf. She's been traveling around the state, Gulf communities, giving her presentation, and she will be with us here in Wakulla County. Commissioner Rocks?
Thank you. I also was going to announce the talk this Friday. But the other announcement I had there will be a back-to-school shot clinic at the health department this coming Thursday, July 22nd, from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. So if you know any school-aged children who need shots, please, that's a good time to take them. This Thursday, from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the health department.
Thank you. Were there any other announcements, presentation from the board? No? Okay, thank you. So that concludes awards and presentations. We are going to be dealing with the consent agenda. We had some items that were identified as items to be pulled off of that consent agenda. Could we have them reaffirmed at this time?
I believe it was items 7, 11, no? I had 14, 17, and 30. Okay, 14, 17, and 30?
Yeah, I think 11 may have been pulled.
No.
11 is the mobile dental van. Number 12 is not in your agenda packet. That's been tabled to August.
Right, and I had received, I guess that was part of the confusion with our pre-meeting meeting. I had received an email from the director of the health department, and I'm comfortable with that situation, so I'm leaving it.
Okay.
Okay. So we have items 7, 14, 17, and 30. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus those items?
So moved.
Commissioner Stewart makes a motion to approve with those items removed. Is there a second to that?
Second for discussion. My current agenda still has 12 on it. Do we need to actually table 12?
Yes.
So,
They went 12 table.
put 12 table.
Okay.
Okay. So there's 4 items pulled and 12 tabled. Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Bocc. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay. Item number 7 is the approval of minutes from the June 24th, 2010 third budget workshop regarding the development of the fiscal year 2010-11 budget.
Wait, I think number 14.
I don't think we pulled 7. That was one of your lottery numbers, but it wasn't.
I'm sorry, I had, that was, if I didn't mention, I thought I had mentioned, I have on my sheet 7, well, I may have misread, but I meant to have pulled 7.
Oh, you want it pulled?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we approved it to be pulled, so.
Okay, thank you. So, it's 7, 14, 30, 17, and 11 is tabled. Is that the idea?
12 is tabled.
12 is tabled, okay. 11 didn't come up with next. Okay, sorry about that.
There might be some good lottery numbers. Why those?
Okay. I just have some comments on this. We entered the budget meeting and workshop, and we all received books after that, which is a tentative budget. But in 08-09, we had spent $1.3 million more than we took in. And my concern is, in this proposed budget, we have a 15% increase over last year's. And part of that is budgeting in monies that we haven't even approved yet, that haven't even been approved by the board to include, such as MSBU fees and such, more than this. So my concern is that we're getting precariously close to a situation where our reserves might not be there to carry us when we need them. But I had asked Mr. Barden earlier, in order to do the budgeting, you have to go back and learn where we've been, and that's part of that audit process. And I had asked at a June 21st meeting for the administration to answer whether what was presented as, and I have, staff members. Okay. Not good. Yeah, I'm going to need, sorry about that, thank you. So, let's go over that again. In order to have a meaningful budget workshop and have a budget process that moves forward, we learn from where we've been. And where we've been is last fiscal year, 2008-2009, we spent more, about $1.3 million than we took in. The new budget contains a 15% increase over last year's budget. This really concerns me. especially when we're budgeting in money that we haven't even approved that fund stream. But at the June 21st meeting, there was a large item that was addressed as far as did our personnel expenditures increase by over $800,000. And I had asked for that response in writing 10 days before this meeting, which I did not receive. I sent out reminders. I did not get a response other than don't have time to do it. We have an $800,000 figure that's included in $800,000 figure that's included in memos from our staff. And when I ask staff for verification of this, I can't get an answer. I have to research it. This is not a way to go forward and plan a budget for this coming year. So that's the reason I wanted to speak to this. If we're going to be doing serious budgeting, then we have to look at where we were, and if we can't get the answers to where we were, how do we know where we're going? So I'll ask Mr. Barden again, can you answer me if those memos that you and Mr. Pugh had produced, are they verifiable? Are they true numbers, or should the board disregard them?
The numbers that we gave you in the original memo?
Yes, the memo and the corrected memo.
Yes, absolutely verifiable.
And they do show that 800,000 plus increase in expenditure.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I thank you for that answer.
Was that over 3 years?
Yes, that was. And that was discounting the added services that were put in there. But, I mean, that should be a simple answer. And it shouldn't be so difficult to get such a simple answer from the people that produced the memos. Okay. And I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted an answer. So, there's one person to speak, Ms. Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I'm here to speak because I heard that there was a contemplation of raising the millage rate for the county. And then I saw this cartoon of the commission chairman and what I assume is the county administrator, and he was sweeping dirt under a rug, and the commission chairman was holding the rug for the county administrator to sweep the dirt under it. And I've seen you all be polite to one another and smile, so I just wondered, you know, how cozy this relationship was. And so I did a little fact-checking. And in 2007, it seems like the county administrator was given by all of you all a 7% raise in bonus. And you weren't chairman then. And in 2008, there was an 8% raise in bonus for this county administrator. But when you became county commission chairman, you didn't give the county administrator any bonus. And then I started looking at all the comments on the ratings of the performance of the management of this county. And let me stress that, the management of this county, the efficiency and management of the county. And the lowest ratings and the comments that were the most concerned, with grave concern, came from the commission chairman. So I think facts get in the way of a good cartoon here. There just doesn't seem to be all this chumminess when it comes to job evaluation performance. Now this leads into the budget, because we have now heard hundreds of thousands of dollars overspent in personnel. We've now heard a $1 million, more than that, depletion in this county reserve, in the reserve that we have. And now we're hearing talk about you slapping a tax on the backs of families in this county, and proposals that maybe you'll slip salaries of the firefighters into one of these taxes you're going to impose on the families in this county, so you have more money to spend in your general revenue fund. That's a smarmy, slimy trick, if you ask me, one that the people should not stand for. And so I wonder if each and every one of you can look the families in the eye of this county and say that you have full faith and confidence in the preparation and the spending of this budget that you're about to adopt for all of these people to contribute to? Can you look them in the eye? I really wonder about that. I think it would be very difficult to do it.
Thank you. Any board comment?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I had those same evals on Mr. Pingree, and a letter that you penned, Mr. Kessler, your signature, and in fact, you didn't give him a raise, but this is what you said. Unfortunately, as you know, our economy and our budgets are stressed because of these difficult economic times. I can't recommend either the merit adjustment or the lump sum bonus. I sincerely thank you for your outstanding performance over this past year. Under your administration, our county has made great strides in many areas. I hope next year for the county's economic condition would improve and allow you to benefit from such awards. So, it goes in the face of what was just said, and the most recent eval that you wrote on him, where most of the marks were as high as they could be given, the overall comment says, and I'll read it, your handwriting, your signature. Mr. Pingree is an exceptional administrator who, if I were given the opportunity, I would hire again. Coming to a rural county from a larger county, and this is first position as county administrator, he's still in his early years, and the potential to become an overall exceptional top-tier county administrator. So that flies in the face of what I read in the Wakulla News, and contrary to what we're hearing, what we just heard from Ms. Peck, quite contrary to it.
Thank you. Are you finished? Okay, no.
I'm just saying that if we're going to be fair, let's be fair. I mean, which do we believe? Do we believe this, or what do we believe what was in the Wakulla News? I'm not sure which to believe. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
Want some clarification.
Fair enough. Let's put the other PowerPoint on if you could. And while that's being put up there, I'd like to point out again, if you look at all of the evaluation scores, I think Ms. Peck was very accurate, mine are the lowest. And 1 year, by 1 point, Commissioner Stewart, you were lower. And 1 year you gave Mr. Pingree some low grades, but certainly
we're not talking about my evaluation, Mr. Kessler. We're talking about their evaluation.
My evaluation, okay, is this. If you look at my evaluations and my comments, they went from almost, well, there was a time where I wasn't even communicating with this administrator except by emails. And my frustration with this administrator is enormous, and I'm sorry that he's ill right now. I don't wish him ill, but my frustration is enormous. For me to get an answer from this administrator, okay, can you open up the, not the purchasing, the other one, and which of the several that are up there under, I can't, if you have the lease, can you identify that one? This is a simple example of my interaction with this county administrator. Ben, what are the conditions for terminating this 3-year lease of this that the county signed, referring to the annex at the housing? Next. Commissioner, as I think I stated, the board's third budget workshop the other night, Tim is working with the county attorney to review what options for closure of that facility exist, and will be doing the same, now under board direction, to the Board of County Commissioner for further action as we know more. Thanks. Next. Ben, I am asking you, what are the conditions for terminating the 3-year lease the county signed for housing? Next. I understood the question. I was conveying to you that this is precisely one component of what we are looking into. Additionally, we are looking to how to close the annex down based on that lease agreement. Next. Ben, I'm happy that you are looking into it. However, please answer my question. Next. I don't have the answer at hand, sir. I've tasked Tim, who is working with the attorney, to find out how that lease may be terminated and the cost for same. When we have the answer, we will provide it to the board. Next. Ben, I am not asking you for a legal opinion. I am asking you, what does the lease say with regards to termination? Please answer my question. Next. Tim, please provide the chairman with a copy of the lease agreement. Is that the end of this? Yeah. This is what I have to go through to get a simple answer. June 21st, I asked for, is this $842,000 or $862,000 produced by you, an accurate number? I could not get an answer till tonight. You know, we don't have to be out there writing nasty things on people's summaries. Maybe they can find jobs easier if they have nice comments on those summaries. So, I think actions speak louder than words. And maybe that was intended to do so, but he was not getting a raise under my watch. I can go through a number of these. Some of them are pretty disrespectful and could be considered insubordination to the chairman of the board. And if forced to do so, I will. I am also privy to emails that have gone out to citizens that I personally walked into Mr. Pingree office years back when he first started and said, how could he possibly treat a citizen this way? So be it clear where I stand. I'm sorry he is ill, but this administration has to accept responsibility for what it's doing. I could go on and demonstrate more. If you don't think that this is an unreasonable chain of events to get a simple answer from one simple question, that I think this board needs to consider having some kind of discussion about evaluating this county administration in public. And I'm willing to do it.
I agree. I make a motion right now that we have a vote of confidence by this board, right now.
Vote of confidence? I'm talking about a...
Let me finish, Mr. Kessler.
Okay.
I have the floor, thank you. I move that we have a vote of confidence to vote on whether we're going to continue his employment here.
Excuse me for 1 second. I am not going to entertain that as a motion. Okay?
You have no choice.
So I did. Because you did not ask for me to have the floor. So I'm not even going to entertain that as a motion. This is my response at this time. I would like this board, if you want to close your eyes and go ahead into la-la land like you've been going with these budget statements, if you want to do that, then you have my permission to do it. You don't need my permission. So
now you've just appointed yourself.
I said you don't need my permission to do it.
No, that's what you just said.
Discuss it. Let's not just make a motion and say this is
whatever I want, Mr. Kessler. I had the floor and I made a motion.
You didn't ask for the floor, did you? No, you didn't.
So you just have the floor anytime you want.
I have the floor because I'm chairman, Mr. Stewart. And if you want, you can.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Stewart. You have to ask for the floor.
Okay.
If you ask for the floor,
may I have the floor?
Yes.
Okay. I make the motion that we have a vote of confidence for Mr. Pingree. Either we want to keep him or we don't. If we don't, we need to negotiate terms to release him. That's my motion.
Is there a second to Mr. Stewart's motion?
Second.
It's second by, yes, you citizens can speak to this. It's now going to be an item that the board is going to vote on. So if you want to fill out cards and speak to this issue, feel free to get up there. There's a second by Commissioner Bocc. We'll give the citizens a moment to fill out cards.
Okay. Yeah, would it be better, even though, while this is being done, should this be on the next agenda where it's properly noticed? I just don't want to make sure we get ourselves in any kind of trouble.
You don't have to have
I just know that things that we bring up later in the meeting that haven't been agenda, we can't vote on So I just want to make sure that
Under discussion.
under discussion. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And this is sort of not on the agenda, so I'm assuming it's sort of like discussion. This is definitely not under agenda item 7.
It's also, as the parliamentarian, could you, is there a motion and a second on the floor at the present time?
Yes.
Everyone, is there a motion and a second on the floor at the present time? Okay.
Not on the minute.
There was a motion and a second to begin discussion, or there was not? Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any citizens to speak on this motion by Commissioner Stewart? Thank you.
And I would ask that you encourage everyone to keep a sense of decorum about them during the conversation.
I will do that.
Hear what I'm saying.
I will do that.
That's giving you my powerful mic.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Stewart to give a vote of confidence to the County Administrator, Mr. Pingree, and a second by Commissioner Bocc. I ask those who step forward, whether you're pro or con this item, to voice your opinion and with a sense of decorum. First, Pam Portwood.
I would just like to say that I'm in full support of Mr. Pingree as our county administrator. I think that he is an expert administrator in my limited opinion, and I hope that you'll give him your vote of confidence. He has done what he's been hired to do for this county to date. The changes from just a few short years ago are unbelievable, and I hear it. I hear it at the local level, I hear it regionally, I hear it statewide, and I hear it at the federal level, that we have a level of professionalism at this county and our county administration now that we should be very proud of, and I am.
Thank you. Billy Poggett.
I've got the same performance letter that on Mr. Pingree that you signed and you wrote. And in your opinion, what has been the accomplishments of this county administrator? Established and improved the county administration and organization and reporting methods. This is your writing. Improved appearance and maintenance of county buildings, brought significant negotiating skills to the county. Now, I'm not a county administrator, but you guys voted him in. He was the man that was, that is supposedly, in your words, could be the top tier of county administrators in the country or in the state of Florida. And it looks to me like you're throwing the man under the bus. You know, my personal opinion is, the man's doing his job. He's doing his job. Whether you have a personal problem with that, that's between you and him. Now, I don't know what, as far as the other board members feel about him, but as far as administrator that I've heard he's done a good job. Now, like I said, if y'all can fix your differences, that'd be one thing, but I don't believe you ought to just throw the man under the bus. And, I just feel like what you wrote in the paper and what I got in my hand is two different things, and I need to know which Howard Kessler is. I'm glad you're not my boss. Thank you.
Okay, Brian Langston.
Commissioners, appreciate you letting me speak. Apparently we're doing something a little different. We're doing a vote of confidence for the administrator. I'd just like to say that during my 10 years as a commissioner, from 2004-2008, the changes that the county went through as far as administration, the improvement was 150,000%. If you want to read my comments on what I think about Ben Pingree, you can look at my evaluation in 2007 while I was chairman. Ben is a fantastic administrator. I have 15 years working for state government in the Inspector General's office. I've investigated bad management. I know what it is, and Ben Pingree is not bad management. And for the chairman to write a letter in the paper saying he's been warning the county and administrators and other commissioners, that's much baloney. I don't know him. And, I'm not happy to have to be here right now. But I'm not going to sit back and let our county administrator be run off by one commissioner. Because that's all you're trying to do. And that's what you're trying to do. Just like you did with Ron Mowry. And what you need to do is run for your office, leave your staff out of it, and move on. Because he's a great administrator. And you got people coming up here attacking him. That's just a big play. And it's unethical. And, if you want to renegotiate Ben Pingree's contract, then I suggest you do that. But quit beating around the bush with it and do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sue Daly?
Thank you, Commissioners. I just want you to know how disappointed I am in this whole thing you all just did. You're bickering like school children, and it's embarrassing to me, my son, and our community. The man is in the hospital, and I don't think this is the time to talk about a vote of confidence. Howard gave him a decent evaluation. Sometimes when you give someone a decent evaluation, it helps propel them to another area. There's nothing wrong with that. I have done it as a manager before because I might have wanted someone out, and I wanted to give them a decent recommendation. That is a decent thing to do. Maybe you wouldn't do it, Mr. Stewart, but some people would do that. You were badgering Mr. Stewart. You were badgering Howard Kessler while that man's in the hospital to go ahead and do this vote of confidence. I'd like to know how Brian Langston knew to be here to speak on this vote of confidence and how Billy Poggett just happened to have that piece of paper. And Mr. Bocc, I am sorry to say this, but you looked at your text messages before you seconded this vote. You all should be disappointed in yourself.
Please. None of that, please. Jimmy Dale.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm dressed in black tonight because I'm in mourning that our county government has gotten to this point. I want to give you some facts. I'm not going to address Mr. Pingree's performance. In 2005, before Mr. Pingree came to join us, he bought some property in Franklin County that was appraised by the Property Appraiser's Office for $45,000. He paid $190,000 for it, and a mortgage for $171,000. I have not been able to find any documentation that this was disclosed in February, I believe it was, in 2007, when he gave a one-year contract to Inspired Technologies, who he sold the property to for $130,000. Conflict of interest is not good in any business, any government, or anything. he bought a house from Inspired Technologies. I cannot find any evidence in the minutes or viewing tapes that was ever disclosed. He has continued no bid contracts with Inspired Technologies and has accepted or requested, I don't know how Inspired Technologies started selling the county computer equipment when the contract did not say they were a purchase vendor, they were for purchasing services. When Mr. Henry sold this lot, he did not disclose it. And it said that he had paid $180,000 for property that was assessed at $45,000. He had not anticipated the bubble bursting. He should have anticipated problems when he continually violates purchasing policies. Early on, when something came up, then we would revise the purchasing policies. I say my time's up. And please, this county's in bad trouble. Look at your past audits. It tells you everything you need to know to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Steve Foltz.
Good evening, Commissioners. Steve Foltz, 35 Monocoop Circle. It's certainly interesting this evening. It's very clear I've not been a fan of the administrator, and I truly do feel distraught that we have to be discussing this without him here. I would suggest that you table this until such time that he can return and address some of these issues. I don't think now's the time to do it, in all fairness to everybody. I will say, though, that this administrator, absolutely without a doubt, has been spending county money like a drunken teenage sailor. It's just that simple. And it's been given to his friends. It's been given to his buddies. If you're a buddy of Ben, or if you hired Ben like Mr. Langston, you're going to support him. You give him 444. I've seen the reviews. The chairman had extraordinarily low views for the first one and second. Then he raised the bar. He did praise him. That's what you do as a manager. As a manager, I've done it, as Sue mentioned. What you want to do, when you have somebody that you're not confident in, you say, this is the greatest guy on earth, to the guy that's looking at that resume. You present, that's what Ben would present to a future employer, would be, look at how great I am. You do that to help the man. Dr. Kessler was trying to help the man. Okay? Whether you really believe that or not, that's the truth. That's the truth. He was trying to help the man, give him an advantage to get out the door. So, you can say what you want to say. That's the way it went down as I see it. I would suggest you table this, let him come back, let him address these issues. I think you do. I think you owe him that. And again, it's a travesty that we have to be addressing this now. So I do wish him the well, and hope for a speedy recovery. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Brock.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak. 311 Old Magnolia Road. I would think that Dr. Kessler must have written those letters as a summary of all the evaluations, not just his opinion. I would think that's how it works, wouldn't it? But nevertheless, I too agree that this is the most inconvenient time to be discussing something of this sort. I would never think that anyone would make a motion of this type in someone's absence. I would like to see you table this, and if it's necessary, bring it back in his presence. I would never want to say something about someone that I wouldn't say to them, and I would hope that people would treat me the same way, and I'm sure that your administrator feels the same way. Please give him a chance to be present.
Thank you. Greg Goodson.
Craig Goodson, Inspire Technologies. Just wanted to address real quickly, it's come up a couple times in the past couple of commission meetings, regarding the purchase of some property in Inspire Technologies' name versus Craig Goodson individual's name. And I can certainly appreciate the passionate response from Ms. Dole and any other citizen. I would certainly ask the question as well, but if the research would be done correctly, the naming entity of this is Craig Goodson. Inspire Technologies turns out on Division of Corporations as an S corporation. I'm listed as a director, and it has my home address listed to it. And therein is the tie of 116 Strattonwood Place to where Ben lives now. No property. Inspire Technologies, all partners are present. No partner relationship other than two individuals in a commercial transaction. And at the time, honestly, Ben was brand new to me, didn't know exactly where that was going. Fortunately, we've had a great relationship, and I think we all have to this point. And I think service-wise, Inspire Technology speaks for itself. But if there are any outstanding questions that anyone has in regards to a private transaction between Craig Goodson and Ben Pendegree, I've certainly already responded to you with that, Commissioner, and I asked for a meeting to further go into some detail with that with you. But if the board or citizens or anyone has a conversation they want to have about that, I'm certainly open to disclosing anything anyone wants to see. So I know that's not exactly on this topic, but if there are follow-up questions to that, or if we need to have a meeting at some point to discuss that, I'm certainly open to doing any of that.
Thank you, and I think that the point is well made, that the issue of that house that was brought up the first time, it should be clear that it was in an individual name. But I did also ask the county administrator to respond to that, and that's one of the things that I tabled out of this meeting, because he's not here. And I will bring that back, because that was an answer that was supposed to be given to me by July 9th, 10 days ago, and it wasn't. Charles Hickman.
My name is Charles Hickman. I reside at 528 Hickorywood Drive, Crawfordville, Florida. And I just have really a short statement to make. After 30 years of being in human resources, I've seen all styles of management, including management by committee. In this case, not one, not two, but each of you need to step up to the plate. You're in charge of this county, and you manage the county. I think that to blame the spokesman of your group for any portion of this responsibility that you evidently advocate, I just can't believe it. You need to really take a hard look at your position and take a hard look at what you're doing with this county and with this commission. Especially blaming your chief spokesman. Thank you.
Thank you. Hugh Taylor.
Thank you, Commissioners. Hugh Taylor, 1357 Martin Luther King Road. I'm extremely disappointed that you guys would do that to a man that's not even here, regardless regardless of where he is. In the hospital is one thing, but just that he's not here to address his accusers. I cannot, I'm more of what I call government by daddy at the supper table. That's awful. You didn't show up for supper, so we want to... I'm not enamored of Mr. Pingree, but I don't mind duking it out with anybody. You know, we have policy and issues of polity we need to discuss. Let's go. But not when the man's not here. And you know what? Because let me tell you the little teeny tiny story. Over the Parish Barwick thing, if everybody remembers what happened there and how unfair and sneaky and everything that was, our last county administrator. I had a visit from a guy who was checking on my breathing, and I said, "What's this with the Barwick deal? You know, special meeting coming up, it's going to be 9 o'clock whenever, tomorrow, and all that. Isn't that kind of short?" "Yeah, it's kind of short." "Well, I thought you didn't like what the guy did." "I don't like what the guy did." "So, well, you ought to be giggling." He said, "It's not fair." You know who that was? Dr. Kessler. It's not fair. And I'll be the first one up here with my jot and tittle relative to Mr. Pingree, if you guys want to have a hearing. But a vote of no confidence without me not here, it's unacceptable, you know. And I have my feelings. But that way to do it is not right. You know, don't kick the guy when he's down. Afford him due process. You know, even though maybe some of the folks that were let go didn't have the same possibilities. You know, but nobody here minds a clean discussion of the issues with everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you. Al Schkowski.
Al Schkowski, 85 Walden Road. I think this is very distasteful, and I have some comments I'd like to make, but Mr. Pingree not here to defend himself. Now, I know that Mike Stewart will never back down and say that he did anything wrong by bringing this forward. And I don't know who seconded that motion, but I hope you'll take the opportunity to withdraw the motion. Thank you.
Daniel Peck.
Diana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. Shoot, if I had known Commissioner Stewart was going to try to imply I was lying, I should have read some of his glowing words of Mr. Pingree, too, that are in the fact. It was former Commissioner Chairman Langston who gave Mr. Pingree the 7% raise, and of course I think you would find praise for that. I think it was Commissioner Brenner who gave him the 8% raise with words like excellent, excellent, excellent. The point is, Mr. Stewart gave Mr. Pingree some glowing remarks while at the same time he had the lowest points in the rating. So that's all irrelevant. What really is relevant here, again, is the people of this county and what is the best service for the people of this county. And hot heads and explosions and bellicose behavior are not the elements of making good decisions. Now, it seems like some of you want some answers to all of these problems that seem to keep bubbling up. You didn't even know there was a criminal investigation of you, right? Well, why not sit down with your county administration? Find out why you didn't know you were being investigated criminally. Find out why you're $1 million with the reserve in the hole. Find out why you're $800,000 overspent in personnel. Find out why you get computers and you don't ask for them. And by the way, Inspired Technologies' address at the time of the purchase of the house was 116 Strattonwood. That's the name of the company, and that's the address of the house Mr. Pingree bought. For the record, which is a state record, look it up. I am urging you to sit down with your county administration, get answers to the questions that keep exploding exploding at these meetings, and then make a very level-headed, well-informed, and efficient and beneficial decision for the people of this county, who should be number one.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want one clarification to make sure that I've written down what we're discussing correctly. The motion I had was a vote of confidence, not a vote of confidence.
Correct. It was misstated by the citizen. We're finished. Bill Russell?
I think I'm the only person here that didn't know what was going to happen tonight. And I'm just glad I don't work for y'all.
You got two, Mr. Russell, Chief Russell. And I'm truly sorry for responding the way I did to Commissioner Stewart by displaying some mild emails of the group that I've been dealing with. So that was wrong on my part, and I should have taken 3 more deep breaths. But it is what it is. I think we have a problem in this county. I think the reserves are almost gone, if not gone. I think we have bad management, and I'm sorry to be saying all these things when he's not here, but we have an administrative staff that should be able to step up and answer these questions. This is who our administrator, we have an administrative team. There's 3 administrators, and I know that they're caught flat-footed, so to speak, but that's the way it is. And, we have a pre-meeting each time, and there's time to give those answers, and it doesn't have to be done in a public forum. But I think this board really has an obligation to sit down and have an open meeting and evaluation with our administrator. And that is to be done when he is here. And that discussion should take place when he is here. And we wish him a speedy recovery and be able to get back with us so we can answer these questions that are looming over us. So with that said, is there still a motion and second? Still a motion and second?
I'd like to talk, though.
Oh, sure.
As a commissioner.
Sure, please, I'm sorry.
No worries. I echo Sue Damon's comments of my frustration. We only have the one good mic tonight, somehow. I echo, is that better? Can you hear me? I have to put it way down. I echo Sue Damon's comments about the frustration with the decorum of the conversation between my 2 peers. That's half the reason that is the only reason I seconded this, because I want to try and help bring it to an end. I have had issues with staff over time, concerns, any concern I've ever had, I've brought up and have dealt with at the county administration office. I haven't had the need to bring it out here and talk about it and spend all of my time in public, and if I've had any kind of administrative issue, bringing it up and just making it so negative and making us look like we're destroying the morale of our employees. When I have had employees come to my office and crying over the way that the citizenry and leadership in this community have been talking about in the public at these meetings. People who I never thought would do that. And it eats at me as someone who is on this board. The accusations that I've heard, that I've talked about, I've gone and sought answers. They're usually half-truths or misspoken, things that they're not there. I have confidence in our county administrator, which is why I seconded this. Unless something radical happens, unanticipated in the next few months, I don't see any reason why Ben Pingree should not anticipate continue to be our county administrator. He has done a good job. He has led us through some very difficult economic times. He has continued to make our office more professional as far as in giving us rules and regulations and helping us move forward. I have every confidence in Ben Pingree, which is why I'm comfortable having this conversation without him here. I don't mind saying good things about people when they're not in the room. I've done it about many other people in this room. I speak highly of many of you. I would also like to say to Ms. Damon, I don't really remember. I looked to see if I had checked. I checked my phone often. It's not, I promise you, I'm not getting coaxed by anybody. It's a state of frustration. People clap, so obviously it's a perception other people have. But I often check the time, use it for calculator, text messages, emails from my office in Tallahassee. Not anything. I don't know how to address that better than that. I hope you all have every confidence in me that I'm sitting up here representing you and not being fed answers by anyone else out in the community. I talk to many of you on a regular basis to try and help form the opinions of what I come up here to say, including Ms. Damon. I talked to her this morning. I'm glad to talk to anybody that wants to talk, and that's how I come up with my decisions here tonight, from review and people, not at the last minute because someone else has texted me. But thank you. All right, this is going to be a fun meeting. It's okay, it's like the phone at the office.
And there's something strange about the mic, because you have to put it so far down, and I can put it up over here, so there's something happening in that area of the room. So this is a vote in the absence, and what you say is great. You know, it's wonderful to say positive things about someone when they're not here. But right now, if I don't feel confidence in someone that's not here, I'm asked to do a negative vote. Right? And that's what's wrong about this motion. Okay? That's what's wrong about this motion.
Can I have the floor, please?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I made the motion only because you were attacking the man, and he's not here. Now, with that said, I want us to put a vote of confidence, and if we confident in them by majority vote, then let's move on and let's do the business of the county. This has got to stop, and this is the very reason another item's going to come up later. I did the research on the accusations about the technologies. None of that was true that was put out. None of it. It was half-truths. When I got to the bottom of it, the bottom line was the man did everything above board to buy his house. The Inspired Technologies contract is legal the way it's done. In fact, it was seconded by you, Mr. Kessler, in 08, and it was unanimous vote, 5-0. In 09, it was voted again by all of us, and the vote was 5-0. And by our own policy that we approved, we do not have to bid those IT contracts out. We extended the contract, and it's completely legal the way we did it. I've asked the attorney, I've asked the staff, and just like Mr. Bocc said, anytime I've had an issue, and I've had plenty of issues with staff, I go to them individually, and I close the door, and we work it out to an end that I'm satisfied with, and I understand why we did what we did. And if I didn't, then I tell them, and we go about business as usual. We fix it and we move on. All I'm asking is, let's get a vote of the board tonight to be either confident in Ben's leadership of the staff as an administrator, and if we don't, then let's get with him and negotiate how to get him out of his contract. That's all I'm saying. I'd like to see us have a vote of confidence, because I'm tired, meeting after meeting, with this same stuff.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. As far as the attack, I think I was asking Mr. Bowden to respond to a question that I had asked June 24th. That wasn't an attack on Mr. Pingree. And as I said, I feel badly about responding to your attack on me. But you're right. We do approve things, and the contract with Inspired Technologies is what it is. And there may be a lot of different issues. But in order to discuss those issues, if you're not pro, then you're going to be con. And if you're con, then you're going to be speaking in the absence of the person that you're trying to address. And that's what's wrong about this whole motion. We're not going to be able to discuss the whole realm of concerns with the absence of the person that we're dealing with. and that's what's wrong. So if we want to really, truly discuss this and really come to a board opinion upon, are we in good hands, not good hands, mediocre hands, or whatever hands you want to call it, we have to have the facts on the table. And what you're asking for is a one-sided debate, because that's what the forum is right now. Commissioner Watts?
Yeah, there are a whole lot of other places I'd rather be right now. This is not my idea of fun. Is it not on? Okay.
Yeah, just hold it close to you.
You know, there were a series of emails shown up there, which I thought was kind of critical and not really related to this item so much. And, you know, I think if people on this board want to have a discussion about our employee, then I think it would make sense to have that done on in a workshop and not kind of hijack the meeting that we have this agenda for. In terms of my own feelings about the administrator and the job he's been doing, you know, it's a tough job. And for this county in particular, I think it's especially challenging. I couldn't do it. And, you know, I mean, all of us have strengths and weaknesses. We all have things we could do better. I haven't heard anything that is so disturbing, like somebody's embezzling county funds or whatever. Like, you know, I feel that we really need to be making rapid decisions. I personally, I'm a thorough, careful person. I don't rush to judgment. There's been a lot of concern about the housing and the weatherization program and LIHEAP. We've got a study underway, an investigation. I want to see what the results of that show. And my own inclination is not so much to see heads roll or whatever, but to try and fix the problems and make things better, to keep from repeating them, train people if we need, whatever. And then, you know, there have been concerns about this house and what, I mean, maybe there isn't a conflict of interest. I would like to see some opinion, maybe from the Ethics Commission, about some of those things, but I'm not going to jump to a conclusion on that just because somebody says, oh, this is something bad. You know, we have a whole series. Right now we're struggling with budget problems. And, you know, yeah, okay, maybe we were a little flat-footed. But this is a budget item that got pulled. And, you know, it's been stated we're spending $1 million more than we had. But that's not actually what happened. What happened is revenues were less than projected, a lot less than projected. We were cutting expenditures, just not as much as the revenue shortfalls. But action's being taken. Now we're working to cut. We're being aggressive in trying to address the county's situation. So, I know that I think Ben is a decent person. I think he's been trying really hard. I think he has the interests of the county at heart. I think this county is much better off since he arrived. We have a professional government. There's more information that's available to citizens, more transparency. These staff people have established policies and procedures where there were none. We now have records and much more documentation where there was none. And I know for myself how much time our staff spends fixing problems that arose before Ben got here, when things really were a mess. So, yeah, okay, we need to research. If there are citizens who have concerns, questions, bring those to us. We need to look at that. But somehow it shouldn't go, in my mind, maybe I'm just slow, but it shouldn't move so quickly from here's the question, here's the concern to, this is terrible, this person ought to go, or whatever, which is what I'm hearing. And I want to get answers to some of these things. The question Commissioner Kessler asked about the $800,000, I talked to Tim Barton about that today. He's working on reviewing all those figures, getting that information to the board. He thought that item was going to be pulled. So he didn't have that quite yet. Now, why, I don't know, but he is working on that information. I think it will be forthcoming very soon. Please, questions, concerns, we need to look carefully at all these things that are coming up, but we need to do it in a careful, fair manner. And, I also am aware we have a new board coming on, too. We're going to have at least one new member. So, I think if people want to schedule a workshop to review the administrator's performance and go through some of these, fine, but my own inclination is to collect more information, and then if any actions need to be taken, maybe that's the decision for the next board. Anyway, I hope that made sense. Thank you.
It works. I would just like to say that I would like to see us just bring this discussion to a halt until Mr. Henry is back here and he's able to sit down with us, maybe a workshop, and get all of these questions out and answered. I mean, we're saying it is and somebody's saying it is not, vice versa. But this is not the time, I feel, that this kind of thing ought to go on. We should bring it to a halt, and after he's back and well enough, that we sit down, put all the questions out on the table, get them answered, and go from there.
Commissioner Ox, how do you feel about that?
Yes, I would love for this to be tabled, withdrawn, for there to be a workshop or something down the road.
My goal of bringing this up again, which is I'm going to withdraw my second, because my goal for bringing this up is to try and show our confidence in the administrator and trying to help us move on past this. And I get the impression from the way things are being ordered right now, vote yes or vote no, whatever it is, it'll be brought up again and again and again, and we aren't going to get to the point where we're stopping this conversation. I would like to see this in the near future move forward. I've stated my opinion. Other people, your letter to the paper, your letter to the editor in the Wakulla News last week, I think brought a lot of people out here today with records and reviews and things. I did not know this was going to happen. That Commissioner Stewart made this motion for a vote of confidence. I think it was your letter that brought them here tonight. I don't want to see our staff demoralized to the point they can't do their jobs, or they aren't doing their jobs to the best use of their time. When people come to work and they're dreading the work because they're dreading the fact that everyone is upset and depressed and feels like that something is hanging over them, that they're going to get fired, there's going to be major shifts, that is not a place that anybody wants to work in. That's why I brought it up. I withdraw my second, but I want to see us move forward with something in the near future so that we can help bring this to an end instead of having, I think there's 3 or 4 items on the agenda tonight that were specifically about Ben, and weren't, and even with him out here still, there were still a couple, so, yeah.
Thank you, and it was expected that Mr. Pingree would have been here when the agenda got made up, so that's why they were on the agenda. So, that wasn't heard. The agenda's made up long before the meeting, and it was expected that Mr. Pingree would be here, and unfortunately he's not. Okay, so we are ready to, we have a withdrawing of that motion, so that dies. Now we're back to the, we still on?
Yeah, I move to approve the minutes of the June 24th, 2010 third budget workshop regarding the development of fiscal year 2010-11 budget.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bocc, second by Commissioner Otts.
I'd like to say that I do feel comfortable talking to all of our citizens about how we're dealing with this budget. We're working very hard to keep it as low as possible. We're working very hard to balance it and make it lower. Everyone I know is suffering during these economic times right now, and we're taking that into consideration. But I am very comfortable talking to people in response to earlier comments.
Thank you. So, all those any further discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. That was easy.
Okay, I believe the next item pulled from consent is item 14. This is a board update regarding the Eastgate subdivision. I would note the board did direct staff back on April 19, 2010 to research some conditions brought forward by citizens who live in the Eastgate subdivision related to stormwater facilities which were installed. Staff has done so and is returning to the board with this report. I would note that this has been a joint project, if you will, between planning staff, public works, as well as code enforcement. Staff, just to give the board a quick summary of what's in the agenda, in the agenda item. There does appear to be some man-made stormwater retention pond that was installed on site, and these improvements look to have occurred approximately in 2005. Staff did coordinate with DEP as well as the Northwest Florida Water Management District, who both indicated that these activities did not fall within their permitting jurisdiction. However, staff did research and note that a development permit application, commonly referred to as a DPA, which is required for development activities within this county, including installation of stormwater facilities, was not pulled in this case. So this issue has been forwarded to code enforcement. And I believe at this point in time, we have notified the property owner for these lots 34 and 35 within the Eastgate subdivision that they are not in compliance with the code, and we will be moving forward with those enforcement actions. We'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have staff from the various divisions here this evening. If the board or any citizens have any questions about this issue.
Are there any citizens on this issue?
Move to accept the update regarding Eastgate subdivision and direct public works staff to research the feasibility of connecting homes in Eastgate subdivision to central sewer.
Second.
Further board discussion? Hearing none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Number 17, Mr. Chairman, is we're requesting board approval of a resolution clarifying the terms of appointment of members of the Dangerous Animals Appeal Board and approving the bylaws and procedures. Back, I believe it was July of '09, this board originally established the Dangerous Animals Appeals Board and appointed members. When you all did that, you did not specify the terms for the membership. So the attached resolution provides clarification of these terms of the members and the alternates. Additionally, this resolution would approve the bylaws and the quasi-judicial procedures for operations of the appeals board. The bylaws set forth the purpose of the appeal board, the makeup, the membership of the board and the general procedures for meetings before the appeal board, and we recommend approval of the resolution.
I move to approve the resolution clarifying the terms of appointments of the members of the Dangerous Animals Appeal Board and approve the bylaws and procedures. However, I would also like staff to bring back at a later date an amended version with more specificity as to the membership and the appointment process. I think I would be looking for things such as specifying that there be a vet, for example, or there be a representative from CHAP, or such as we have in some other groups. Also, that there would be an opportunity for interested citizens, and the whole process about how these people get nominated and appointed by the board is a little bit unclear to me.
Okay, so that's your motion with the addendum to it.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bocc. Are there any citizens to speak on this issue? There are none. And is there any further board discussion? If there is none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay.
Okay, excuse me, I had to go to the ladies' room for you and the rest of the county. Item 30, request board approval of payment for additional TDC director hours for grant-funded projects. This item is related to a BP grant in the oil spill. I know Ms. Portwood is here this evening to answer any questions you all may have. The request is to spend a portion of that grant funding to support additional hours for the TDC director to provide grant administration and service under this item.
Move to approve payment for additional TDC director hours for implementation of the Deep Horizon Oil Spill Review Plan.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Bocc and second by Commissioner Stewart. Taylor? I think he's still here, okay.
Thank you all, Commissioners. Hugh Taylor, 1357 Mount Luther King Road. Let me first make clear, I'm not here speaking against Ms. Portwood, as I will be accused of. I'd love to see her back for the county, working as she was before. I thought she did a great job. Her voice was the only, not her voice, her name was one of the few names that always popped up when I first moved here, for her competency and all that. My concern is with the exact definition of all these, quote, employees for all these, quote, little boards and commissions and this and that we have.